Okay, so we're going to cover all of Module 8 today. It's talking about the theory of evolution. Essentially, what I want to tell you about this is that there's no reason for Christians to be afraid of evolution. None at all, okay? There's not a problem with this. I, in fact, believe in evolution, microevolution, for sure. I don't believe in macroevolution, but I do believe from one species changing within that species, no problem. It happens every day. But changing from one species to another, I don't believe that because DNA tends to defy that. It's really, when Darwin was working, DNA had not been discovered yet. Okay, so we didn't know anything about that. All right, so evolution means to evolve, means to change from one thing to another. Okay, first thing, everyone has a worldview, whether they realize it or not. We are all looking at the world in a certain way. And I have told you from the very beginning that my worldview is a Christian worldview. I do believe God created everything. I'm very honest about that with you. Your parents know that. ODA is founded on that principle. So therefore, your parents know that I'd be teaching from this perspective. But I'll also tell you what the other side says because I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of them. They don't tend to teach this version in the public school system. I will tell you that. They only teach the evolution perspective. And they teach it as if it were 100% truth. What do we know about science? Is science ever 100% true?
No.
Never. Never. And for somebody to say that science is settled, that person is a lousy scientist. Okay, so people right now are saying things are settled about the vaccine, things are settled about the virus, and all that. No, it's not. It never is. It never will be. So it's okay to question scientists. There's not anything about any scientist anywhere who is untouchable.
As long as you're not saying that every scientist is wrong about everything.
Of course not. No, there's plenty of scientists that have been, like there are plenty of things that Darwin says that I think are absolutely true. Okay? Where he ends up with, I don't agree. But some of his stuff, some of his research is fantastic. Great research. All right, so let's talk about Charles Darwin. He lived between 1809 and 1882. He's an Englishman. He was married to a very strong believer of a wife.
I'm pretty sure he married his cousin too.
That wouldn't be unusual at the time. Yeah. Okay.
I just find it funny if he did.
So he was born in 1809. Look at Gregor Mendel, the guy we talked about as far as genetics, was born in 1822. So they were really contemporaries. Very interesting. It's just that Darwin didn't know anything about Mendel's work because nobody knew anything about Mendel's work until long after he was dead. He had a medicine degree and a theology degree, which he turned toward geology to naturalism later in his life because he became fascinated with nature and how it looked. I will tell you that as he studied nature, he started to lose his faith. And he struggled with his faith after he went on his trip called on the ship called the HMS Beagle.
Oh, yes.
At the time, so we're looking at he was a student of a guy named Lyell, Professor Lyell, who influenced him greatly. And at the time when any ship would go out, any exploration would go out. Is it raining outside?
I don't think so.
It's kind of wet out there.
Could just be
Are we
rain.
expecting rain? Okay. Anyway, at the time, whenever exploration went out to do anything, we're talking about all those great explorers,
Yes, the ones who discovered
they would
America.
send a naturalist along, a scientist would come along because they wanted to see anything interesting and new might be in other parts of the world. So that's what Darwin was on the Beagle. He was the naturalist that was sent along. In fact, have you seen a movie called Master and Commander?
No.
I believe it. So it's a Master Commander is about a ship going out with a captain, and one of his ships ends up being the Beagle, and Darwin's on the ship with him. So it's very good, but it's really the story about the captain. Here it is. The faith seemed to start to erode when he was on the Beagle. That's the name of the ship.
I don't know.
He was not an anti-religious crusader. He didn't go out and try to say that you are, that God's not real. His wife was a very strong believer, and he loved her very much, and so he was trying to tread carefully on that deal right there. Okay, so I think you're supposed to just write down a few facts about his life, right?
Yeah, there's like 6 things here.
There's 6 of them. Okay, there's
It just says an introduction to Charles Darwin.
Yeah, so just a few of these things.
Oh.
Okay, the one here, a good scientist can be wrong. We've already known that good scientists can be. I believe he was a good scientist. I believe that he did make some pretty large assumptions. Many scientists do. It's not unusual to make assumptions. In fact, it's not even anti-science to make some assumptions.
Like small.
It's okay to make some assumptions, but what we need to do is test those. We need to come up with a hypothesis and an experiment that can test that assumption that we're making. Sometimes we're a little bit blinded and don't see the thing we're assuming, so we have to maybe get someone to review our work and say, what do you think about them, and have them give you some good, what do you call that, constructive criticism. Yes?
One thing that's really difficult to test for evolution is it tends to, in the theory of evolution, take a long time for it to actually have any significant changes. The one thing that we've accidentally done is caused some fish in like Washington D.C. to change rapidly because the pressures we put on them.
Some chemical, yeah,
I'm not
chemical
even
stuff.
sure if it was chemical. I think it's just because the climate or environment around it was changing a lot.
Yeah, so yeah, and
And
that would be
also-
called, that would be considered
Yeah.
microevolution.
Also, birds near roads would actually have like shorter wings. I'm pretty sure, in order to allow them to avoid the cars constantly passing.
Get a little more speed that way
and
running.
get food and whatnot.
Okay, so the Beagle is a ship that looked kind of like that. So he was a naturalist on this ship, and it did sail across the world. Here we see they started in England, and they went, it looks like, down this way first. Here Galapagos is, of course, his most famous stop. And the reason why it's so famous, he stopped in all different places, right? And collected data from all those places, collected different kinds of specimens of things he'd never seen before. He drew pictures. Talk about art.
Yes. His,
Artist.
he was really good. I really enjoyed seeing the drawings of the finches that he did on the Galapagos.
Well, and then these days, what a naturalist would do is take a camera and do a photograph.
picture.
But this is before photography.
Yeah.
They down to the Straits of Magellan, very treacherous here, up to Galapagos. Now, the reason why Galapagos is so famous is because
very
human
isolated.
beings do not live on
Very
Galapagos.
isolated.
It's
Or at least
completely
not-
natural.
not
It's
a
only the
permanent,
animals.
not a permanent place. Some people have lived there for several years, but not like a permanent residence. There we go.
Yeah, I think the only people that have quote unquote lived there would be
Scientists and whatnot. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
kind of like
it's not
Antarctica.
a permanent residence. It's just because people are studying stuff around there and the whole thing.
Yeah, and so you can go there as like on a tour
Tour.
today, but you only get to go on the island during the daytime. There's no hotel or anything on the island. And then look over here to Tahiti, and then back around here. So notice they did circumnavigate the globe. They went all the way around. So Darwin did something that not everyone can
Not
say
a lot
they've
of
done,
people have
right? So
done.
it's pretty rare to circumnavigate the globe. So this happened between 1831 and 1836. All right, so it was a nice leisurely trip. While he was at the Galapagos, he studied all different kinds of animals and plants, but the most famous, of course, will be the finches. Now, these are the birds that lived at Galapagos, and he noticed something about them. He noticed that they were similar
But not.
but different,
Yes.
depending on where they were. Okay, so you can see this little scale thing right here. We can see that we have some finches were in trees, some were on the ground, okay? And then we had the warbler finch. I'm not sure where he ended up, but he's in his own little class right here. So then we can see that we have on the tree group right here, we have fruit eaters and insect eaters, but on the ground we have cactus eaters and seed eaters, and that makes sense. Now, when you look at them, notice their beaks. So their beaks are different based on what they eat. So the beaks down here of the seed eaters have to have beaks that are strong enough to break open seeds. All right, and then over here we have beaks that are fairly large, but they're not nearly as thick because they're eating fruit. So they need a large beak to pull the fruit off, but they don't need a strong beak to pull the fruit off necessarily. Insect eaters, we can see their beaks are getting a little more pointy, so they can get those insects right there. And I guess this warbler finch, that beak looks like an insect eater to me. The cactus plant right here, he's got a pretty sharp beak right there to eat cactus. Okay, so Darwin's theory of origins then, he took all that data and he believed that those finches had changed based on what food they desired to eat, okay? And his assumption was this, that they all started as the same kind of bird, okay? That's a pretty big assumption because you can say, like, think about dogs, for instance. They're all dogs, but look at all the different varieties they come in, right? And we can create new breeds all the time, right? And so there's a big assumption there to say that they were all the same, but they were very, very similar, but yet very different. And so he can make this jump to say, depending on what they preferred to eat, is where they chose to live. Now that makes sense. Some people who live in the city because they're closer to the restaurants, right? Some people who don't live in the city have to make their own food. Okay, so, but what happened with Darwin's theory is it took on parameters that even might surprise Darwin if he were alive today. What people have done since Darwin's death might surprise him. And that is that it is now stated that the theory of origin, that everything that we see today came from one common ancestor. All right, now that has been rejected by most scientists today, even the naturalists and the the uniformitarians, because it doesn't seem very possible. So now what they say is that all life that we have today has come from several different sources, maybe 5 or 6 or 10 or something like this. Okay, so species produce more offspring than that can survive. Okay, so they have success, and because they're successful, they have more offspring. And we have the concept of something called the survival of the fittest. The survival of the fittest is also known as natural selection, and I have no problem whatsoever with the survival of the fittest. Of course, it makes sense. A bird with a broken wing won't survive as easily as a bird with a fully intact wing.
And I think that if a bird gets broken wing, they can't fly as well.
And they will be easy prey, easy pickings. Ecosystems will only support a limited number of organisms. That is correct, right? There's competition for food, competition for space. And so therefore, most ecosystems are self-limiting, and we'll have a lot of plants and not very many apex predators, right? We have to have a lot of plants to support the apex predators. Variation of traits will take place within populations. We're going to see some examples of that specifically. About like the finches, for instance, the variation of trait, the variation of the shape of their beak. Whichever one is best suited to win, survival of the fittest, will survive and reproduce. If there is a particular trait that comes out and it's advantageous, then that creature with that trait will have a better chance of survival, and therefore passing that trait on to some of the offspring, those offspring will have a better chance of survival. So the theory of evolution is a theory, okay, and that means it's not proven by any way, shape, or form, but it states that all life on Earth has one, and here we're going to say, or a few common ancestors that existed long ago. Most scientists today will say that it's at least a few, not just one. For instance, if we had two, we could say plants came from one group and animals came from another, something like that. If it were 3, plants came from one, animals came from one, microorganisms came from a third. Something like that. So the idea is life started simply and gradually evolved in complexity.
It's going to take me a minute.
That's fine.
We don't have 5 squares.
Okay, just the things that interest you most. You know what, guys? I'm pretty sure that there's not even a quiz for this module. So this is really just for, oh, no, there is a quiz.
Traits within.
True, false, 12 questions. So just different aspects of the theory.
That's super cool. Guess it's great.
I will say that the theory in its most common form would demand a long period of time, millions and millions of years. And furthermore, I don't necessarily have a problem with the Earth being millions of years old. It might not be millions of years old. I don't know. God didn't tell us. It wasn't important, apparently.
Doesn't, I can't remember because I haven't really looked at the Bible in a while. Doesn't God interpret time differently or something?
Absolutely. He's not under time. So I heard a really reputable creation scientist talk about the time of the third day and how that could have been eons and stuff. So. Because plants came on day 3 and the sun didn't come till day 4. I'm like, well, the
Things
plants
could
needed
be-
the sun, but there was
Yeah.
part of that something called light. Because the very first day God said, "Let there be light." So that could have fed the plants. I don't know. Okay, micro versus macro evolution.
Or it could have just been that over time, the writings of the Bible kind of changed, because that tends to happen.
The writings of what?
The Bible changed. It could have been altered some by somebody.
Maybe
That-
some
that
minor
does-
changes.
the
The Dead
smaller
Sea
changes,
Scrolls
yeah.
tends to show that it's actually pretty darn accurate.
No, I was just saying sometimes
time.
that sort of thing can happen, where it can get changed.
Okay,
Like,
so microevolution says small adaptations over time based on environmental stresses. I have zero problem with that. None at all.
Do we read that?
Does it have a place for microevolution?
It says the
Kind
major
of.
difference between microevolution and
So micro would be
Micro is smaller
small
changes?
adaptations between an organism. I'm saying, in other words, an organism changes something in that organism. Whereas macroevolution says a hypothesis that an organism can transform into a whole different organism. I have a problem
Over
with that.
time. It's
DNA
not like-
tends to
it's-
defy that.
It's not like one person will just give birth to a random wolf monkey sort of thing.
We're going to check that. There's a theory.
It changes slowly.
There's a
is what
theory.
it's thought to be. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
the
you know
theory, it's
what's weird about that though? About that slow change?
Mhm.
The fossil record defies it. Fossil record does not support that.
Though
And
we also have
evolutionists
to
are in a
remember-
little bit of a quandary right now.
But we also have to remember that there has been a lot of fossils that have been damaged or destroyed over time. And there's also that huge, like, 4 billion year gap in the Grand Canyon because of some event that happened.
Well, there's
there.
something called the Cambrian explosion.
That could have. No, that's whenever, like, a bunch of new species
It came
popped
out of nowhere
That's-
with no previous.
I think it could
specimens.
be- Sorry, I'm just trying to remember everything because it's been a while since I've looked into a bunch of stuff. I also break through this.
Okay, then there's something known as the immutability of species. Okay, that describes the idea that each individual species on the planet was specially created by God and could never fundamentally change. Now, what do they mean by that? I believe that over time, birds' beaks can change. Absolutely. So I don't believe that it's against my faith or against the Bible for an organism to have some pretty significant changes. For it to change from a bird to a reptile to a mammal, that's too big of a
Yeah,
jump.
those sort of things.
Too big of a
I
jump.
don't think scientists believe in that.
Oh, sure they
so
do. Sure they
The
do.
fish
But they have
thing-
problems, the evidence
fish
doesn't.
Thing, that's a different thing.
They
I'm
think
saying
a
it's not.
hippopotamus fell in the ocean and became a whale.
No, there's a very big difference in how that occurred. And how they think it occurred. I'm sorry.
The data does not support it at this point in
And
time.
they're
The
not-
theory,
They don't say that it's like a hippopotamus just decided, I'm gonna be a whale now. They don't say that's what happened. They
at the
don't-
beginning it was a hippo and later it was a whale.
Okay, I understand.
That's
what
what
you're
they're saying.
there. It's just whenever you say it like that, it's just not what they're.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with microevolution at all. So, macroevolution relies on the idea of mutations adding information. Mutations can add information. Now, if you look at uniformitarianism, which says that how things are happening now is how they've always happened, we can look at mutations and we can find that mutations at this point in time, I'm not saying this never happened, but at this point in time, mutations do not benefit the host most 100% of the time. Okay, in fact, mutations are detrimental. The only time where mutations help something is like, for instance, viruses that mutate to become less virulent, meaning they can survive more easily. Viruses are going to try to become less virulent, in other words, kill you not as
Less.
easily, because
They want
they
to
kill off their
survive.
host and then they want to survive, so they will not kill off their host. We think that's what's happening with COVID right now. Okay, so micro versus macro. Micro is within a species, macro is one species to another. Which brings us to the geologic column. This is a uniformitarian view of geology, and that would state that these changes happened very gradually over millions and millions of years. Okay, and they set up a time scale, and the assumption is life started simply and became more complex. from these little single-celled photosynthetic things to flower-bearing trees. That's definitely a change in complexity. In the animals, we have these single-celled animals, copepods, zooplankton, things like that, that over time became more complex and turned into things like reptiles and whatever you believe about dinosaurs. Some people believe they're reptiles, some people believe they were birds, whatever. We have some fossils of those
feathers being
dinosaurs. We have some evidence of perhaps feathers being involved in some. Mostly the big question is about the shape of the hips of the dinosaurs that we're walking up onto. Their hips look a lot like bird hips look today, the bones of the bird's pelvis today. But the way that the geologic timescale works is if I find a fossil of, let's see, this little copepod down here, then I will tell you it's 600 million years old. Well, I assigned the age to it. Humans assign the age to it.
Because that's what you're guessing.
That's my whole point, is that it's a guess that they're making.
One thing that we've tried to figure out is being able to carbon date things. Now, I'm not
Right.
saying that's 100% of
Well,
working.
if it's a fossil that, let's say it's a fossil of a trilobite that is called a cast fossil, there's no actual
Yeah,
trilobite left. It's
Can't
just a
really
rock.
Check that.
So therefore, the living carbon that's in it, it's not carbon datable, because there's no carbon in it today.
I'm not saying that's 100%
Yeah,
working.
in fact,
I'm just saying that's something that
when you have enough carbon data to do a carbon date on a fossil that has some bone left in it, to about 3,000 or 4,000 years, it's super accurate. Past that, it gets a little wacky.
fuzzy, yeah.
Okay, so therefore, if I'm looking for something in the Jurassic period, like this T-Rex right here, I'm going to tell you it's 140 million years old. How do I know that? Because I said it. It's a little bit of circular reasoning here. So we made it up, but they made it up based on what would be required to get from here to there.
Well, we're pretty
Okay.
certain the time was.
What word did you say?
I was saying pretty certain. Isn't the scientists pretty certain?
Well, they're making a mathematical.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're making a mathematical
So when you say
assumption. They're saying
certain,
they're
there's a
pretty
mathematical formula to it, but it's not
Yeah.
certain in the sense of science.
I
'Cause
I
we
wasn't
can't go
saying
back.
It's like the sense of science. I was more so saying the people were like, we're pretty sure this is what it is, but.
Well, that's why it's a theory.
yeah.
Okay, it doesn't advance beyond a theory because it's very difficult to test these things.
Anything, yeah.
All right, so the uniformitarian, also known as the evolutionist view, would be that the geological column is a theoretical picture in which layers are brought from around the Earth are meshed together into a single unbroken record of the past. You don't have those blanks? I see
No.
how these things are underlined? No? This might be from the previous book. It's okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's.
All right.
something we can
We
drive.
have two assumptions. This is in your book, though. The
Yeah.
two assumptions that are made are, number one, the geologic column is an accurate picture of the sedimentary rock layers and the fossils found there. That's assumption number one. Assumption number two is that the sedimentary rock layers accumulated over eons of time. Lots and lots, millions and millions of years. But like I said before, making some assumptions in science is not the worst thing you can do. Just remember that if somebody comes along with a hypothesis to test it, you
Don't
can throw it out.
immediately-
You can throw out an assumption all day long, but you can never prove it. Because science proves nothing. All right, so the next question is there a place on Earth that shows this theoretical column,
Grand Canyon's pretty close. when I
but it
know.
doesn't have it all?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's like a 4 billion year gap. That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
That's the
billion,
gap. I was thinking. It's
billion?
like, I'm pretty sure it's like billion year gap, or not. Maybe not 4, but there is like a gap that's like really big. Maybe it's like 4 million, but there's still like a gap where there's just Missing rock.
And that's when in science you have to say, well, science isn't exact.
Oh, wrong thing. Also, the Grand Canyon's huge.
It is huge.
It started like a small water. It just eroded. It's just great. I just find it funny how it started from like a small thing, just the Grand Canyon, and then just churned through the
We don't know
rock.
about that. That idea that the river carved that out over millions of years.
Oh, no,
is
I'm
not-
certain of that. But I know that rivers can cause
Sure.
it to erode.
Water
That's
is a
okay.
powerful thing. And I think water did cause the erosion in the Grand Canyon. I just think it was a lot more than a river.
Oh, it probably was more than just that. It's just
That river is just a little vestigial remnant.
I'm sorry, I'm not a very fast writer. I'm just trying to make sure my handwriting's neat and
All right, well, I'm moving on. Applications of the theory of evolution include species changing into another completely different species. And, of course, the origin of life. How did life begin in the first place? Okay, so evolutionists believe that random selections of advantageous traits can account for the diversity of life on Earth. This random selection, also known as natural selection, has what they call the appearance of design. I've always found it interesting that they're willing to admit that there's an appearance of design, but it doesn't mean that it's designed. Keep in mind also that the idea of
I've never actually
intelligent
heard of
design
that.
doesn't necessarily mean an acknowledgement of God.
I've never actually heard of that before where it's like it has the appearance of design.
Oh,
Never
yeah.
heard of that.
That's
So,
where they are now, because they have to. They have to say that. Okay, so the idea of these random selections of advantageous traits, I don't really have a problem with that. It's sometimes those the traits aren't always advantageous. And those creatures end up being less successful and they die off. Okay, so what's the catastrophist view of geology? Catastrophists believe that some geological events can happen actually quickly through natural physical change of a catastrophe. So what do they believe the fossils are? So a catastrophist would be a creationist viewpoint, and the creationists would say that there are 4 types of fossils. We have fossils from the creatures who lived at the creation and then died. There were local catastrophes, little floods, things like this. Then there was the Noah's flood, the large worldwide flood that caused the formation of fossil graveyards, where we see just piles and piles of fossils that have washed down to a low spot, maybe into a cave, something like that. And then local catastrophes that happen after the big flood. So that's what they believe. So in other words, Christian believes that fossils are real and that they're pretty old. But they may have happened fairly quickly versus millions of years. So here's our time scale again. Here's my question. Is there any location of the Earth where there's a complete column of sedimentary rock like the one that's accepted here? And the answer is no. And you can see right here, water's rising, water's falling, post-flood, this kind of thing. The idea that the more advanced creatures, there are fewer fossils of the more advanced creatures and they're higher up in the column is because they probably could swim and get away from the water. Whereas these other creatures were inundated pretty quickly by mud. All right, paleontology is the study of fossils. Out to blank to fill.
It's a really long blank.
Paleontology.
No, it's just that it has a giant blank and it's a really quite a small word in comparison to.
Paleontology is a pretty good word.
No, it is, but it's not as big as the huge gap it leaves.
Maybe some people write bigger than you. You could do really big letters in there.
I suppose so.
All right, so if you're going to go out and look for fossils, then you might be, if you appreciate that, you enjoy that, then you might want to be a paleontologist. I will tell you that the vast majority of paleontologists, vast majority, up in the 90% of paleontologists would be not Christian belief system. The evolutionary tree should have, according to Darwin, some things called transitional forms that happen between. So if something went from a bird or dinosaur to a bird or whatever, we should have all sorts of fossils of the transition. Some people like to call it the missing link. Scientists don't like that
Because it just sounds
word.
inaccurate. It just
Yeah,
seems-
but the idea is transitional forms. In fact, when Darwin was dying on his deathbed, he said, okay, well, we just haven't had enough time to find those transitional fossils, and since he's died, we have found 0.
But it's only been like 100 years. It's only been like 140
So
years.
before he died, we had 0, and after he died, we have 0.
No, I'm just saying it's only been like 140 years. I'm not saying.
I'm saying we don't have any
Um,
transitional.
No, I get it. I get it. One thing that was being experimented on to Russia during the 40s, but even they canned it, was the scientist was trying to, because in theory you can create a, what is it, chimpanzee hybrid, a human hybrid, and the Russian scientist was trying to do that, but he wasn't able to, and he was also treating the monkeys very poorly, so it's thought that could have potentially, if it was possible, that potentially stopped it because he was abusing the monkeys.
Well,
in huge
not to
form.
mention just the ethics.
Yeah, that too. But
involved,
even
yeah.
Russia was like, oh,
Even
No.
Russia was horrified.
No.
Well, it's the idea of like cloning right now, you know, the fact that we probably
did-
could clone a
we
human
did
being,
do
but
it.
is it ethically advisable?
yeah,
No.
we did manage to clone animals.
Yeah, we cloned a
in the
sheep, we
90s.
cloned a couple of things.
Yeah, like a goat or something like that.
Okay, so here's the idea. See this evolutionary tree? That everything has evolved from this common ancestor, or like I said before, that should branch out from like 3 or 4, 2 or 3 maybe common ancestor or something like that, to be a little more fair. But we can see all this change that has taken place, and in order for this to be accurate, it would have had to take lots and lots of years. Let's watch a little video.
Does a design require a designer? Keep that question in mind as we look at some new scientific discoveries about the origin of life in the universe. Since Charles Darwin published his theory of evolution in 1859, many scientists have denied that design requires a designer. Darwinists have long claimed that the mechanism of natural selection could generate the appearance or illusion of design without being directed or guided in any way. Recently, however, even staunch Darwinists have acknowledged that living things may have certain features that display evidence of actual, intelligent design, though their ideas about who designed life on Earth are, well, a bit out there. Some prominent scientists have proposed that space aliens designed and then transported life to Earth. Evolutionary biologist and noted atheist Richard Dawkins has even floated this idea, suggesting that extraterrestrials may be responsible for a possible signature of intelligence in life. Indeed, no less a scientific genius than Francis Crick, who helped discover DNA, also proposed the idea that ETs seeded life on Earth to set the evolutionary process in motion. If true, we have an intergalactic Johnny Appleseed to thank for starting the chain reaction that has taken us from inanimate matter to Shakespeare. So why have these scientists considered this seemingly far-fetched possibility? Because they have encountered a big mystery they can't explain. It turns out that even the simplest living cells aren't simple at all. And that discovery has made it extremely difficult to explain the origin of life. Recall from biology class that Crick and his partner James Watson discovered the structure of the DNA molecule. When they did, they also realized that the chemical subunits in DNA function like letters in a written language or digital symbols in a computer code. As Bill Gates has explained, DNA is like a computer program, but far, far more advanced than any software we've ever created, which kind of suggests a master programmer. Could such an intelligent designer have been an alien, as Crick and Dawkins have suggested? Perhaps, but there are problems with this explanation, big ones. First, the spaceship theory does not actually solve the problem of the ultimate origin of life. In fact, it dodges the whole question of where this super smart alien came from. How did he evolve? How did the first life and the genetic information necessary to produce it first arise on his planet? But there is something else the ET hypothesis does not explain. Modern physics has revealed evidence of design in the very fabric of the universe. Physicists have discovered that the fundamental physical parameters of our universe have been finely tuned against all odds to make our universe capable of hosting life. Even the slightest alterations in the values of key factors, such as the strength of gravity or electromagnetism, or the masses of elementary particles, would render life impossible. We live in a kind of Goldilocks universe, where the fundamental forces of physics have just the right balance and the properties of matter have just the right characteristics and configurations to make life possible. To illustrate this idea, the late Cambridge physicist Sir John Polkinghorne imagined a universe-creating machine with numerous dials, each representing some critical parameter. The various dials each have an almost infinite range of settings, yet all are set just right. Not surprisingly, Polkinghorne and many physicists have concluded that the improbable cosmic fine-tuning of our actual universe points to a cosmic fine-tuner. As legendary Cambridge astrophysicist Sir Fred Hoyle argued, a common-sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super-intellect has monkeyed with physics to make life possible. Could this super-intellect have been an alien? Not a chance. Cosmic fine-tuning has been present from the beginning of the universe, and thus cannot be explained by any agent that arises after the beginning. Instead, fine-tuning is better explained by an intelligent agent outside the universe who could design its structure as a whole. To avoid this conclusion, some physicists have postulated another speculative hypothesis: the existence of a vast number of other parallel universes. This so-called multiverse idea portrays our universe as the outcome of a cosmic lottery in which some universe-generating mechanism spits out billions and billions of universes, so many that our universe, with its improbable combination of life-conducive factors, would eventually have to arise. Yet advocates of the multiverse overlook an obvious problem. All such proposals, whether based on something called inflationary cosmology or string theory, postulate universe-generating mechanisms that themselves require prior, unexplained fine-tuning, thus taking us back to the need for an ultimate or transcendent fine-tuner or designing intelligence. Many of us call this intelligence God. I'm Stephen Meyer, Discovery Institute Senior Fellow and author of Return of the God Hypothesis for Prager University.
Okay, so his point is that the fine-tuning argument is very hard to refute. The fact that we are in a place that is just right for human life. Now, that begs the question, well, is life only here on this planet? That seems a rather arrogant position to take. I don't know. It wouldn't hurt my faith if there were life elsewhere. I don't know.
At some point.
I'm just saying it's vast area out there.
Gotta get bored at some point. Gotta
What?
do something else.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that's interesting is when you look at the data of stars, they exhibit this thing called redshift, and redshift is, because it's moving, it's like a Doppler effect. And the weird thing is it's all redshifting away from the Earth, which is weird. In other words, like the Earth is in the middle. And that doesn't make sense. But the data kind of does that. Okay, what about transitional forms now? Darwin was convinced that he would find these transitional forms. We're going to look at a couple. One of them is the Archaeopteryx. So on your book, it's on page 327. And it turns out that we have a pretty good fossil of this guy. Now, keep in mind that 98% of the fossils found are shells. Okay? So that 2%, 2 to 3% that are not shells are some of the most fabulous finds on the planet.
Like that
If you
frozen
find
mammoth.
If you find a fossil of anything besides a shell, it's worth money. I'm talking about even stuff inside a piece of amber. That's worth money. Is it a transition? Is it a transition between a reptile and a bird, or is it just a bird? So here's one of the fossils. I'm going to turn the slide off so you can see it. This is an extraordinary fossil. Take a look at it. Okay, let's see if we can make sense. This is the neck and the head. So this creature has been through a traumatic experience, was killed in some sort of inundation, a mud inundation, which is what allowed him to become fossilized. Okay, and we can see the bones. We can see pretty good bone structure here, but look here. This is extraordinary. The fact that we can see some soft tissue that looks like feathers. That's pretty amazing. This has got to be a priceless fossil, if you ask me. It's one of the most famous ones out there. An artist's rendition of what this creature looked like is this, based on this. And so there are a few things here that give an idea, and we thought for some time that this was one of the transitional fossils that we found. So what does it have? Well, it has a toothed beak. All right, it's got teeth in its beak. Oh, keep in mind that while we have an idea of feathers here, we don't have any idea about the soft tissue on the face or those, that's a little bit of an assumption right there. But what we do know is that there are on the wings some little claws that come off of there. We can see those somewhere. I don't know if it's right here, but we can see those little claws. That tends to be less like a bird and more like a reptile, okay? It has wings, of course, that make it more like a bird. It does have, did you know that most birds, their tail feathers are just feathers? You've seen that with a chicken, right? You pluck the tail feathers off a chicken, there's nothing there. It's just, that round part of the bottom there. This actually, the backbone extends past the bottom, and so there is actually a vertebrae in the tail, which is more like a reptile than it is a bird. Okay, the only problem is since the time of this, the founding of this, we have actually discovered birds that have teeth in their beaks, that have claws on their wings, and have vertebrae beyond their tail, for their tail, and they're full-fledged birds. So at this point in time, evolutionists, I think all evolutionists have conceded that the Archaeopteryx is a bird. But they all agree that it's a fabulous fossil right there. Okay, let's talk about Lucy, Australopithecus. Lucy was discovered in 1974 in Africa at Hadar, a site in the Awash Valley of Afar Triangle in Ethiopia, by paleontologist Donald Johnson and the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. Okay, so you can see right here is the museum. Now, okay, when you go to a museum and see a fossil, especially those big, like dinosaur fossils, like that, number one, there's probably none of the actual fossil there. That's because the fossils are too precious, so they're kept somewhere else. So it's just a model that's made on them. Secondly, they certainly don't have all of it, just like Lucy. So the white parts you see right here, those are the bones they do have. So we can see here are the bones they do have. See? The black stuff here is sculpted from clay or whatever they use, plastic of some sort. So here are the fossils they do have. An artist's rendition depicts Lucy as looking like that. Okay, once again.
That has been disputed even by evolutionists.
Say again?
I'm pretty sure that has been disputed even by evolutionists.
What has been disputed?
The way that it looks.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all it is.
Okay, so there's a couple of problems with the bones. Okay, number one, they were found in a place and they were scattered. So the idea that they all came from the same individual is not 100%. Of course, nothing's 100%, right? Secondly, while we have one hip bone right here, we do not have a kneecap. We don't have a patella. Okay, and that would be able to show whether or not Lucy, who got this name Lucy, walked upright. We don't know that. But if she did, she would be about this high. Okay? And so the idea here is, since we don't have very much of the lower leg, especially the knee, we don't know if she walked upright or not. But pictures usually show her walking upright. And so there's been a little bit of some valid questions about this. It's still nonetheless an excellent fossil, no question. It's an excellent fossil. And it is very famous. But it would be far from what is known as a missing link. Okay, so what about, and we're going to get back to Lucy in a minute, okay? What about any support for the catastrophist view? Now, I will tell you right here, I'm perfectly willing to say that catastrophism has its holes too. It does. But some things that support it, we have rapid fossil formation. What's that? That's a fossil. What is it? It's a hat. It's a miner's hat from California from the 1849 gold rush. Okay, it's completely fossilized. Did that take millions of years? No, it took since 1849. Here's another, this is a fossil of a man's leg. And this was also found, this right here is just sediment right here, but this is a fossilized bone from a miner in California. I find it interesting that the boot hasn't remained intact, that the leather hasn't been completely destroyed over time. But the bone is completely fossilized. Mount St. Helens is an interesting study. We can see the beautiful mountain there. It's in Washington State. You know, have you seen it?
I've never seen it, no.
Oh, really? Okay. But of course you know how famous it is.
Yes.
Right. And it's famous because in 1980, was it 80 or 81?
I think it was sometime in the 80s.
It was either 80 or 81.
Yeah.
It blew its top. Riley, why don't you put your phone down? Huh?
No, I was just seeing something about that miner's hat was all.
What about it?
I was just looking at the miner's hat.
Oh, okay. Fossilized miner's hat, maybe
Yeah.
fossilized hat, maybe.
I was just going with 1849 miner's fossil hat.
Okay. If you look up that www.bible.com. So here is the mountain, right? But it's a volcano,
Yeah,
right? And we know what happened in the 80s, early 80s, was it blew its top. Now, this is called Spirit Lake, and you can't tell from this picture very well, but there's a beautiful forest right there. And what happened was it blew its top, boom, it knocked the forest completely down. The forest trees fell into the water. They floated. They had a rich ash from the volcano fall on top of them, and it caused a rapid fossilization of the trees. So what do we call that? Petrifaction. So they were petrified in a matter of months. It did not take millions of years to cause a petrified wood. It happened in months. The things, when they came petrified, all of the cells, of course, were replaced with stone or minerals versus the actual living cell, which makes them heavy, of course. Some of them fell to the bottom, some of them fell right side up, some of them fell upside down, right? So when you see them, it looks like a forest underneath Spirit Lake right now, all right? But they're all petrified. And most of the time, we would say that would have taken millions of years. Not in this particular catastrophic event. Things were just right. We had the water, we had all those minerals, we had that mud that went in there. Notice that we do have the volcano growing back. It is still very active, actually. It has erupted a couple times since then, not to the extent that it happened. Look what happened. It literally lost half of its mountainside. That created a whole lot of ash. This is called a pyroclastic explosion. Here are those, that forest covered by that ash floating on the water right there. We have a very short video. Interestingly, nobody took video.
By
They took pictures.
contrast, the 1980 explosion of Mount St. Helens was almost 80 times smaller, and it packed the punch of 500 atomic bombs.
Look at all that ash. Okay. If you ever get a chance to watch Ring of Fire, it's one of those. Anyway, give it a chance. IMAX, that's what I'm trying to find, yeah. Support for uniformitarianism. There are some geological formations that are difficult to explain by catastrophic means. It looks like they would have taken millions of years to form. The White Cliffs of Dover present a problem that uniformitarians cling to. Some unconformities. Remember, an unconformity would be, like for instance, in the layers of the Grand Canyon, in between the layers there is some evidence of erosion. That means there had to be time for erosion to take place before another layer came on top of it. So let's see. Here's the White Cliffs of Dover. We're going to watch a little video on this one.
The White Cliffs of Dover are a striking feature of the British coastline on the Strait of Dover. They are composed almost entirely of chalk, accentuated by black flint. These cliffs pose a problem for the catastrophist view of the geological record because they have all the characteristics of being deposited by microscopic organisms that die and slowly settle to the bottom of the ocean. This would take millions of years to happen and doesn't fit well in the catastrophist view. While some catastrophist explanations have been attempted, so far none are entirely successful.
So this might bring us back to perhaps the world is very old. I don't have a problem with the world being old. I don't know. Theory of evolution has its problems. There are no transitional fossils to support gradual change. There's no missing link. The missing link is still missing. The information contained in really DNA was one of the big torpedoes to evolutionary thinking because DNA is so beautifully precise. It has complexity and specificity that suggests, it screams design in it. The mutation explanation is a mutation problem because mutations that we see today, now that doesn't mean it happened this way every time in the past, the mutations we see today are not beneficial to the host. We haven't found any, except maybe in that viral thing. So here we have, now class, we didn't have any details yet, but we know we evolved, okay? We had atoms, we had something, and now we have us. So the idea here is that we really don't know what's happening in the middle here. Creationists do have a better foot to stand on here in the sense that we can always say, God did it, right? It came out of God's imagination. Okay, so what are some evolutionary answers? The first one, now I will tell you most of these have been completely done away with by discovery of DNA.
didn't God actually create us in His image?
Uh-huh.
Right? It's just, it came from His imagination, so it's like that, isn't it?
Well, I'm just talking about, an anteater,
Oh,
a
okay.
pangolin.
Yeah,
That's all imagination right there, right? Okay, so this idea that sounds really smart, progeny recapitulates phylogeny. Okay, it sounds really great. We have a guy called Ernest Haeckel who studied embryos of different creatures. And he noticed that these embryos were really similar between a fish all the way over here to a human. And as they grew, you can see they started to come up with those specific traits for fish, salamander, tortoise. Now we have a shell right there, this kind of thing. So his idea was that in this stage right here, sort of like a stem cell, we would say today, that one of these may decide to bump over here. Okay? Couple problems. Number one, we discovered DNA. The DNA of a tortoise codes for the tortoise. It does not code for a salamander. The second thing that really, really blew this out of the water was that Mr. Haeckel faked it. He faked his drawings.
Not necessarily faked it, it's also that he was drawing, he probably wasn't really that great
He
at
faked
drawing
it.
things.
He faked it.
Okay.
Because now we can see, here's what they really were, so you can see they're actually quite different from one another. Here's what he's drawing them similarly, but they look very different in reality.
Those bottom ones definitely are different, but the top ones you can
That's
see
his
how-
drawings.
No, I'm saying you can, oh, that's his
These are the
drawings.
reality. These are his drawings.
I don't know, because it's not very well shown.
Yeah, so this is what Haeckel came up with. And so what he did was he took these, and out of a desire or wishful thinking, he just tweaked them enough to say, look how similar they are. So he was wrong. So he's been completely disowned by the scientific community. Horse evolution. Horse evolution, you'll find this in every book about how they moved from this little Eohippus up to the modern day Equus. But you see we have a problem. This is a 4-toed foot moving to a 3-toed, and a horse today walks around on 1 toe per foot. And the idea here is that which is the most advantageous for the creature, and 1-toed would not be considered advantageous because actually that's probably the most, what would you call it, vulnerable part of a horse, right? You know what happens today when a horse breaks his leg?
You shoot him.
There's nothing we can do. We got to kill him. We got to
Yeah,
euthanize him.
it's just blam.
Even in today's technology, we can't fix a broken leg on a horse because it is so. It's just, think about walking on 1 toe. Oh my gosh, it's so vulnerable. Structural homology, the study of similar structures in different species. That's a blank to fill in.
Okay, different
Structural homology. It may skip down somewhere a little bit.
structure homology. Yeah.
The study of similar structures in different species. So you're just going to underline write in species in that blank. So what we're looking at here is between all these creatures right here, the bones with these kind of color on here are similar. So let's look at the humerus of a human. This is called the humerus. This is bone right here. It's very similar in a horse, in a cat, in a bat, in a bird, and even in a whale. Look at that. So the assumption would be that humans could have gone through this evolutionary process. Or we can say that these structures were so successful and that God created it once and used it over and over again, that kind of thing, right? But notice here, like we have our radius ulna, we have our carpals and phalanges, our metacarpals. Look at the bat. So notice those are his little phalanges coming out here, the phalanges on the whale, this kind of thing. All right, in 1912, there was a hoax called Piltdown Man. Here were some guys digging up fossils, and they came up with this. Now, only I believe, not the darkest part, but this part here is the only part that they found. The jaw was found at about 20 miles away in a different location.
Yeah,
And so they put it all together, and they came up with this guy, called him Piltdown Man. It was completely discredited later when they found out that the jaw came from a different location, and they manipulated the data. They actually put some bone in there and filed it down to make it look older than it was. And they really did it was a hoax.
It was.
Nebraska Man. This happened in North America, in the Americas right here in 1922. This artist's rendition right here of what came from the discovery of a tooth, a single tooth. And from that single tooth, they came up with this to be the person that walked around like that. Now, as time went by, they were able to actually get into the middle of that tooth where there was just a slight bit of remaining tissue in there that had DNA, and they sequenced the DNA, and they found out the tooth came from a wild pig. Okay, but textbooks had this printed for a while, hoax.
Yeah.
It was a hoax. It was disproven. Neanderthal man. This is one of the really famous ones. This is in a cave in Germany. They found these really great fossils of human beings, and this is where the whole knuckle-dragging kind of caveman idea comes from. It turns out after some further study, we found out these were human beings who had a very severe deficiency of vitamin B. Was it vitamin B? They had something called rickets, and rickets causes your bones to soften. So they're just humans. They were living. If I were a human and didn't have a house, a cave might be a really good option, right? Then we come back to Lucy in 1974. We've talked about her weaknesses, the fact that we don't have a kneecap. Once again, it is still a very, very good fossil, however. Okay, microevolution versus macroevolution. We are looking at a moth on a tree trunk. Okay, now in England, this moth lived in the forest with a tree trunk that had a white trunk like this. Now, then came the Industrial Revolution, where a lot of coal was being burned, and it caused a lot of soot to end up on trees. So we have a tree, and this moth now is very visible on that tree, and therefore his advantage of camouflage is missing now. And look at, here's another moth right here that has a trait that he's black, right? Same kind of moth, but he has this trait. Does he have an advantage now? So more of these are going to survive. If this black moth were on this tree, would he be caught more easily? Yes. Now, I will tell you, full disclosure, these moths were put on there purposefully for this picture. Okay, that makes sense. Right, how else are we going to get it right there? But this was discovered. So I have zero problem with the fact that this became the more prominent moth of the era. I have no problem with that. Okay? In other words, that was an advantageous trait. It was already there, and this creature's offspring survived more readily because it made it to adulthood. But to take something like this and to come up with something like this is a bit of a stretch. Okay, so the idea that this happened over eons like this, we do not have any of these. This is what they think Lucy is right here. We do not have any of these transitions right here. In fact, we have found some fossils of humans. They're very rare. Most of them are in like bogs or something like that. So what about creationists who believe that God used evolution? When I was in high school, I said, oh, maybe I'll go with that theory, that God just used evolution, you know? And so the idea here is that there were all these mistakes being made here. The Bible tells us that it was the sin of Adam that brought death into the world, so how could all this death happen before Adam even existed? In other words, if you believe this, you're going to have to deny the truth of the Genesis account. Some people want to use the Genesis account as a story anyway, and so they might be comfortable with this theory right here. I say it's bunk. Theistic evolution is God made this millions of years ago. It's now extinct, but because it evolved into something better. This is now extinct. It evolved into something better, which evolved into something better. And it says here, why would we want to believe in a God that had to do so much erasing before he could bring me into the picture? This would deny the idea of made in the image of God and that kind of thing. So once again, theistic evolution doesn't really hold water scientifically. Now, if somebody wants to believe it, that is their choice, of course. Molecular biology has shown how specific molecules occur in organisms, and it's a way of comparing organisms' genetic code. I think these are blanks you're supposed to fill in. Okay, so really what has advanced the idea of the origin of life is the discovery of DNA and that molecule there, that huge molecule. So molecular clocks and rocks, data in the fossil record versus molecular record. The data does not seem to line up. In your book, we have table 8.1, 8.4, show how protein comparisons in organisms do not support that simple organisms evolved into more complex organisms. So it gets quite tricky at this point. We have the fine-tuning argument that makes it tricky, and then we have this the protein argument that makes it tricky. And then we have the Cambrian explosion, and that's where we have all of these organisms just boom showed up out of nowhere. They have no predecessors found. Even though we have found soft tissue fossils of other things in there, we don't find any of those Cambrian organisms there. Okay, molecular biology has also come in to show some things. I wanted to show you, this is red blood cells being trapped in a little net. It's called a blood clot. We need to clot our blood in order to not die. Okay, and it goes through a process kind of like this. Okay, so it has to go through, So what we have is we have a factor, we have a cut on the skin, let's say, and we have a factor that's already present in the blood, which gets converted to this factor, which now influences this factor, which is already in the blood, to convert to this factor, which comes all the way down to, we call it factor X, it's actually 10, but 10 has to be converted to 10B in order to be converted to 11. In other words, it takes this is called a cascade of biochemical events. I miss one of these and I'm bleeding to death. The idea that it takes 1 million years for each one of these doesn't make any sense for the organism. In fact, the guy that was studying this, who was an atheist when he started studying, is now a very strong believer in God because of this. Also, vision on the back of the retina. The biochemical events that take place there are impossible to explain. All right, so another theory that has come up with something called punctuated equilibrium. The idea that one day a bird's egg hatched out a bunny. But once again, DNA defies this. Okay, DNA does not hold this at all. And then the bunny, of course, would need to have just magically another bunny somewhere to reproduce, right? So that's another tough one right there. So this is Mr. Crick. This is Francis Crick. So he realized, looking at the DNA molecule, he's the one that came up with the design of it. I mean, by looking at his X-rays and this kind of thing. And he said there's just simply no way that this happened accidentally, even over billions and billions of years. So there must be another answer. So he came up with directed panspermia, which is the aliens brought the intelligence here. Which, as we saw in the video, sidesteps the whole where the aliens get it, that kind of thing. Neo-Darwinism is a modified version because they've had to change things up a little bit. We've had several scientists contribute to this theory, including Huxley. I can't figure out if Huxley's one of these guys down here. So it kind of reconciles Darwinism and De Vries. De Vries is another person. Theory here of natural selection. So we can see here that Darwinism said we could rely completely on variation, inheritance, and natural selection. Now we're saying, well, we want to bring in Mendelian inheritance, some population, some gene selection, some DNA inheritance, and then integrated these synthesis over here. So it gets much, much more complicated. And it probably, when we're talking about the origin of life, should be complicated, right? So why do so many people accept the theory of evolution? If I decide a priori there is no God, just assuming, right? There is no God, I will not be able to consider that God is the force behind the creation of everything. I must explain everything without a God. So that, between that and academic peer pressure, scientists are belittled and somewhat looked down upon if they believe that if they have a creation viewpoint. All right. So we're going to do lab now, and the reason we're doing the blood typing is because blood typing is driven by your genetics, and the genetics, of course, is how we distribute traits. Okay, so the distribution of traits would be about creationism. That's the way I came up with it. All right, we have 4 different types of blood. We have group A, so type A, type B, type AB, and type O. So this is going to show an RH factor on there right here. Okay. So A has anti-B, it has A antigens, surface antigen, anti-B antibodies floating around. B has B surface antigens and anti-A antibodies. See, these are the surface antigens here. AB has no antibodies in the plasma, but it has both A and B antigens on its surface. O has no antigens on its surface, but it has both anti-A and anti-B in its serum. So if I put this blood into this person, all of that will clot that blood up and kill that person. Okay. All right. So nobody knows what their blood type is?
I don't think so.
And are y'all willing to give it a go here? It doesn't take very long. You do have to poke your finger.
Oh no, my Christmas same
But I do have a
Yeah,
little,
that's very incentive.
I have a little lancet that makes it really, really easy.
Still can't believe we have to tell people, hey, don't share a needle, guys.
Are we done with the book?
Yeah, I guess so.
I missed something, I guess. I was thinking to keep going to my phone.
If I need to turn it back for you, earlier, I can do that.
Well, there were some things blank that I had.
Okay, so it wasn't.
Did I never
just,
had anything for it?
I
Yeah,
didn't see anything
seemingly.
for it.
Seemingly.
Okay, so what y'all are gonna need to do is we have a alcohol swab.
Just please do this.
So what we have to do for this is we have to get everything ready before we poke our finger. Because guess what happens to your blood as soon as you poke your finger? It tries to clot up, yeah.
Isn't that what hemophilia is?
Is it like?
Yeah, they're lacking a clotting
I
factor.
guess it's
Does it matter what finger?
Not really.
Okay.
I'm gonna bring a chair up
Those
though.
are the focus.
show the focus. I think it's this little thing.
Yeah, so I have this little machine. This comes with these if you'd rather use one of these, where you have to go, but I have really bad aim. And so one time I was
What
like
is
up
that?
inside,
Ooh.
it's called a lancet. Yeah, and you
Sorry,
gotta, you
sorry,
can't
just
just go,
do that.
you can't do that, you go boom. So this does it for you, okay? Now I'm trying to remember how to get this.
You go first.
No, you go
Actually,
first.
I'll
You
go
go
first.
first. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wanna make sure it doesn't hurt bad.
I don't think I've heard that
Okay.
before.
So what I
Sorry
have
about the
here
sticker.
is this is gonna hold on to this little guy.
I just wanna know so I'm not like, I'm trying to pull.
And
my
you see,
finger away.
these are all sterile, right? You see, now I'm gonna pull this off and you can see underneath it is
I need a
one, okay? And I put this in here like this. This one like that. And I charge it and when I do this, just like that, okay? And I'm gonna put it against my finger. Okay, so on our cards then, we have to have everything ready. You're gonna have one yellow pick that's gonna go right there by the yellow.
Like on it?
You're just gonna keep it next to it right now. We're gonna need it in a minute. You're gonna, it's a stir, it's for
Oh,
sure.
it is dirty. Ah.
It's up there.
Here, the red one's gonna go,
Somewhere.
Well, there's like
I guess
three
it's-
reds.
yeah, I don't know why,
Yeah, it's like in
not more.
this spot.
Anti-B serum,
I assume there's a blue one.
anti-A serum, yeah, there's a blue one, so I guess
Anyway.
let's just pick to do it
Oh,
that
would
way.
we just put it down here maybe?
Well, we're gonna use the blue one for the RH factor, which is gonna be that one.
There's that. That was just me dropping this and being like, oh, I don't want that to fall.
Okay. Alright, and now what we're gonna do is gonna put our, these are the serum for the so if your blood has the surface antigen, this is the antibody that'll make it clot up. Okay, so I'm gonna put anti-B right here on the yellow area. So don't touch it yet.
I'm gonna poke it.
And then I'm gonna
Looks like
put the
pus.
anti-A on the blue area.
It looks like pus.
Okay.
This is the best way for me to describe the yellow. That looks like jello.
It
Wow.
looks like the stuff you dye eggs in. Easter.
And then we have the anti-RH factor, which I didn't have this for a long time, so this is my new
Oh,
kit.
sweet. So we're gonna find out if I'm something.
We'll
I'm
find
not
out.
sure
I
about-
hope y'all are something besides O. I'm O, but I am O positive, so my RH factor will
boring.
go. Alright,
I'll
so
make
now,
it more interesting.
here's how this is gonna work, okay?
Okay.
Let me get all my stuff.
Oh,
I
yes.
have two. I have everything ready to go. Right here. Okay, and I'm gonna take my. Usually you're supposed to use the hand that you don't, that's not the dominant hand.
Oh, so my right hand.
Yeah,
Use my
so
left
I
hand to get,
always hit this finger for some reason. Okay, so I'm gonna really get it nice and clean, and now I'm just gonna kinda,
wave it back to dry it off some.
and then, look at all that blood that's getting there, see? So I'm letting that dry off a little bit, and now I'm gonna cock that like that, and then I'm gonna take this, and I'm gonna push it against here, and now push the button, okay? And now, I have a little drop of blood coming out.
Does it hurt?
No, not really.
Not really. Sorry, it's like, well, not really.
So
It's
now I
like-
need a drop of blood here, drop of
Oh.
blood here, and am I gonna get my, yeah, there it goes. Gotta get that there.
good bit.
And now I've really gotta start moving here to, stir, but I'm not gonna mix my sticks up, okay, don't mix your sticks up,
That would not be good.
okay? And now this one,
Blood's very vibrant.
Good.
Very red.
okay?
Oh,
And now I'm gonna just do
That
this to my
looks
card, I'm
gross.
gonna start doing this,
Just
and we're
slowly
gonna
to
start
the
looking
side.
for any kind of little coagulation. Now, do you see the granules forming right here? See
Yeah,
what I'm
it doesn't
talking
seem
about?
to be moving very much.
Now, gosh, it looks a little bit like we have granules forming there. No, but then the granules are forming there for sure.
It's a bit wide
Okay.
on that bottom.
off.
You wanna go first?
I don't care.
And see, we're not gonna reuse this, right? Actually, I'm gonna get rid of
Don't
that.
share needles.
I'm not gonna share needles. This one here.
You can go first.
You ready? Do
But you
you
gotta-
wanna
Me
do
on
it
my
yourself?
hand.
Gotta start with your
so
cleaning.
Show me how to do it myself, sure.
Start cleaning off. All you're gonna do is you're gonna push it up and you're gonna push that button right here. Okay? That's all you're
Push
gonna do.
it, to my finger and then
You're gonna
that
push it
button.
on really, really, like, push it.
Push it tight as can.
Yeah.
Alright. Just gotta,
I don't know which one I'll use.
okay, so which finger should I take?
It's your choice. I use the middle. You play guitar?
No, but
No?
I did get one for Christmas. It's an
Oh,
one from
I
before
wouldn't use
World
the
War
fingers
II.
you need on the frets then.
It's actually one from before World War II.
That's cool.
Yeah, well, I don't know how to play it at all, and I haven't even gotten the strings on it, cause it's from before World War II.
Wait, so we're using
Apparently
the
it's
red one for the NCRH?
I was just gonna ask you about
Apparently
that.
it had just been sitting in some guy's room for
I think so, yeah.
like 40, 50 years.
Does it matter what color it is?
So you should be able to see that granules forming there on this. This is clear, there's nothing forming there, but there's little granules forming there. It's not as dramatic as I wish it were. If y'all are A or B, it'll be much more dramatic.
Come on, be something interesting.
Yes.
Yeah,
Come
E
on.
plus.
Okay, so you know how you're gonna, so then
Okay.
you're gonna milk it and you're, on each
So,
one of your little
button
dots,
here?
you're gonna put, yeah, you see with the little, yeah, that's where you're pushing. Okay, now
Okay.
you have to recock it, so pull the back part. There you go, there you go.
Sorry, that's just funny.
And now push into there really, really well. Push it,
actually, no,
push
you
it,
do
push
you
it,
do
okay.
you do Sorry, I get anxious. Dang,
Okay,
I
now
didn't
milk
feel
it,
at all.
milk it. Did it hurt?
No, I didn't feel it at all.
Okay, get, oh, see,
Alright.
now you don't wanna do that. Now squeeze, 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 squeeze your
Got it on my
finger.
finger.
Yeah, squeeze your finger, that doesn't hurt you. Preston,
Yeah.
you're up, you're gonna do it?
I didn't really get much. Didn't get much blood at all.
Well, keep squeezing, keep squeezing.
Well,
Now you
gotta
started,
just
you
let-
started
it's
going
supposed to
too
be a
quick.
drop. I need to clean.
Okay, yeah, you need this. I'm really surprised this is not clotting better.
okay, so I'll take this.
Gluten in there.
Just do the blood. I didn't really get much blood for the yellow one, but I didn't really get much.
You want me to do it?
at all.
Yeah, I'm not.
This
good at
finger?
it. Yeah, middle finger.
Okay. Okay, now squeeze, 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 squeeze. Good.
I really can't get much blood out of the thing.
So,
Could I do it in another finger too?
You can do the
Second, or is that
second
too
time.
little?
I can't do different finger.
You can do a different finger, sure.
is that too little?
No, start stirring, start stirring. Put your little, this on your finger. And now hold it with your thumb here, and now use that hand to stir.
Is that good?
Looking good, keep stirring, okay. Now set that stick down.
Do this one.
Yeah, put it into the next sample. Alright, and then your last one. Okay.
It's
Now,
heavy.
just kinda do that with your card, just squish it back and forth. Use glue on this one, yeah? Just
Mhm.
Okay, and now just kinda back and forth. Okay, you gonna try again?
I need more blood, yeah.
Did you have enough alcohol in that pad, or do you need alcohol?
I mean, it seems pretty cleaned off. I cleaned it off quite a
Does
bit,
it? Okay.
so.
Let me get a new.
Oh, I'm sorry that I just messed it up.
Did I put a new one on? I don't know for sure. So I'll
Maybe.
just- You have enough, liquid reagents? Okay. Try to let it, instead of touching the card,
Just have it
just
drop.
let it drop.
Yeah.
Okay, this one, yeah?
Yep, milking her.
Okay, now
Don't actually
squeeze it,
felt.
squeeze it. Good. There you go, that's nice.
There we
that's
go.
nice.
Now, since I was actually able to feel it, something happened.
white seems to be going. I'm surprised it doesn't look better on mine. See the granules forming there?
Yeah.
I see that for sure. So I felt like I could see that in
There
the
we
A.
go. I just had to get the water tension,
Okay.
the tension to break.
So what does that mean?
Let's give it a few minutes here. Let's check it out.
I just touched it lightly against it since there was a blob of it.
Okay.
So
That's red?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Second? Go.
So this is a reasonably new kit that I have here, so I hope that, because right now, Preston, I'm really trying to make A go here. See, so we see the little dark
I'm sorry,
things
some
in
of
there
it has spilled off.
onto the table.
No, onto the other part of
You know, and I think you might need another drop of this.
Don't contaminate.
Yeah, you're a bloody mess over here. buddy.
Sorry, blood everywhere.
Stir that one.
It's a bit difficult to pick the thing up.
Okay.
What do you think it is? It spilled onto the table.
What's wrong with your shirt?
Shirt's red.
So I'm thinking, Preston, that A looks like it's going. See it?
The blue?
The blue one, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you're type A.
Boring.
A, no, that's good. Now, I'm not gonna, I think it's A positive. Because if that's, I know mine's RH positive, and so mine's only clotting that much. Usually you'll see big granules. And let's see about yours over here, mine.
Figure that thing out.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
like a
how to
murder
figure it out,
scene
man.
in there.
Yeah, you can stab a little chipmunk and then I did this.
Yeah, I don't know, alright.
I'm sorry, might need to get another,
Looks like your O,
might need to get another
which is
piece.
boring.
Yeah, it is boring.
Yeah.
I'm just saying another piece of those, cause
We're not gonna stick you again.
oh, fine.
Here, but I would like you to clean up the table, please.
Yeah, I was
How's your
gonna
finger?
ask about
Good?
that.
Bleeding stopped?
I think so.
Okay, so it's important now that we make sure and pick up our bloody things and
Does it matter?
dispose of them properly, because it's frowned upon to leave human blood at a
Look.
scene.
I cleaned it up.
That was done, okay, this is good.
Oh, wipe off
So I have a special
this.
little box for all this
Oh,
stuff.
it's just preparing.
Ooh, look
for the
y'all,
next
this is gonna be the
section.
first time this year I've kept
I
you all the
wanna
way
do
to
the
the
next
inside.
section.
I'm
Come on,
super-
it's gonna
I'm
be
super-
awesome.
I'm not good with like a lot of.
The frogs must be cut. I don't think it's gonna be bleeding that much, if at all.
Well, it's dead. So
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it would really be
It's
bleeding.
like a dead animal.
Yeah, exactly. Or worse.
Alright, so
Could be
anything that
worse.
touched blood, I want to go in here, please.
This?
Yep, that too. And
So you
I,
think
if
a
you want
fishing
Band-Aids,
test?
I can give you Band-Aids, we're gonna, I'll
I'm
put
not
that in a
thinking.
special place.
Okay. Might wanna
Let
get
it,
a
just lay it on
special.
the, no, we're gonna let it dry.
Might get an actual doctor's test, like a proper one.
Well, so they use ones just like this, actually.
Well, maybe they'll be able to figure it out better than I could.
They might take a sample, so I really feel like your A's going, so I think you're A positive. And I see some clumps, definitely some clumping there, look at that clumping, that's good, yeah, but I don't see it there. If you're B, it gets clumpy, really giant clumps.
So A positive?
I think you're A positive, Roddy, I think you're O positive.
Boring. Could
Yeah.
be O negative.
But it
Come
is
on,
the
at least
most-
I could donate.
It is, I can't tell, actually, I can't tell your RH factor, to be honest with you.
I guess that's such a mess. I'm very sorry about
Is it
that.
everywhere?
Yeah, as long as it's not on the table anymore, we're good.
Yeah, I cleaned it up fairly quickly.
Alright, thank you. Okay, so then, if we had a lab book, page on this, I don't even know if we had a page
Oh,
on there, did
look,
we?
I just realized I was getting stabbed in the hand where I have a cut
Oh,
on my cuticle. Whoops.
yeah.
It looks really bad. It really wasn't. It was just like a dead skin that was really thick but didn't really do much. That was hanging off for a while until I just went, oh, forget this, and got rid of it because it was not going back on. Because sometimes you can do that, or at least I've been able to have that happen. Where seemingly dead skin, just sort of slap it on there real good and give it a few days and it'll probably fix itself.
Skin is pretty resilient, yes indeed. Alright, well,
Didn't you
we
feel
gave it a
so?
try.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure you're A.
I'm gonna try and get it at a doctor
Positive.
just to confirm it.
Yeah, so, yeah, cause you could, if you were really, you could tell him, I think, I did
I'm
a
so
test
sorry about that mess.
that looks like O positive. I don't see any glutination.
I'm not good whenever it comes to like dropping things.
Dropping?
Just,
Dropping's pretty easy.
no, I'm saying like dropping blood sort of things,
Oh,
like
okay.
liquids and whatnot.
I
Not
haven't
very
helped
good
you
at
with
I'm
that.
surprised
doing
it
things.
actually works. My hands are always shaky.
Okay, yeah, I definitely
Well,
see
you
some
might
A
want to get
positive
your
on
blood
there. Yours
sugar
looks the
checked
best,
out.
Preston. Yours looks better than mine.
It's
Okay,
not good.
gang.
If I'm shaky, I
Next
just have
week,
some peanut butter
We
around
will
it.
have a quiz over 8, okay?
Quiz over 8?
Yeah,
What
Next
happened?
week?
yes, because we only spent the 1 week on module 8.
Oh,
I didn't
we're
think we had a
doing
quiz at all, but I
test
just
on
looked it
eight.
up. We do
Okay.
have a quiz on module 8.
Okay.
Okay?
Well,
Alright.
fine.
And then we'll get moving on 9, and then we'll start moving on
Mhm.
in our study. Okay? So I'll see you next week.
Okay. Yeah, I think my mom's like A or B or something like that, because she, I think I'm referring to a little bit of that. She's donated blood quite a bit, not so much recently, but she did in the past.
Yeah, they're
But
wanting us
I
to.
think blood sugar issues might have prevented me from. I'm so sorry about that.
Oh, look
seriously.
at the agglutination there. Do you see
Oh,
it?
dang.
See, that's me. Do you see all that clumpy
Yeah,
stuff?
I see
That's
that.
showing the RH positive. I'm glad that finally sees that. See, I don't see that on yours, but it may be that we haven't waited long enough.
And I've also.
Ask your mom and dad if they're RH negative.
My dad doesn't know his blood type. I've
Okay.
asked this question, and my mom and I have asked this question several times.
So
Don't know.
this is Preston,
Oh.
and I think I see agglutination there.
Kinda.
and there.
Maybe.
But now look at that.
Difficult to tell. He's just everything. I'm joking, but yeah.
AB, could be AB.
Um,
That's definitely clotting. He's definitely RH positive.
so,
I'm glad to see that because I know I am, you see.
yeah.
And you can see it really well right there.
Yeah. But yeah, I just don't know what blood type is. One thing that would be neat is that eventually we're planning on getting me a DNA tester so I can see if my mom's 93% Irish.
Oh, like a
I already know that
23andMe
she
or one of
is-
those things?
Yes, like 23andMe. She is 93% Irish.
Oh wow.
They were always
Didn't you
told
say
that
she's redheaded?
Yes.
Yeah.
And blue-eyed, so that's potential inbreeding. Ooh. Also, a fun thing, my dad is also from Ireland, and a thing with his family is heart issues.
Oh. Mm.
So, haha.
Well,
I
you
need
need
to
to
worry about
avoid
heart
that. Yeah.
disease. And he is.
Well, is his heart okay?
He has to take medicine for cholesterol.
Oh, he does.
And
Okay.
something that said, and the doctor's like, yeah, no matter what you eat, you'd still have really bad cholesterol.